Karen, just to be clear, you didn't do it.
We know who did it, Steve. We know. And we know who spearheaded this cover-up. You all know.
Yes, we do.
If John was beaten up and attacked in that house, who did it?
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. And it's not for us to know. Somebody other than Karen is responsible for that, for the killing of John.
Yeah. Roberta in the truth zone, mic hitting raw. Spotlight shining, she exposing the flaw. Debunking the myth, breaking their facade. This is Glass City, respect the squad. On these NYC blocks where the skyline flex big. Roberta Glass slicing lies with a truth rig. Innocence frosters, your stories unravel. She's a map through the madness of gritty gravel. Glass don't bend and facts don't break. She's a storm that's called, you feel the quake. Exposing tales stitched with crooked seams. Justice in the lens, shattered fake dreams. Screams about killers, painted heroes in disguise. She burning propaganda with fire in her eyes. No glamour for the guilty, she call it straight. She backs victims, the voice stay awake. Stats and receipts, no spin, no clutter. Cold cases whisper, she cuts through the mutter. Truth's her tempo, don't confuse the beat. She's standing for the real while you taking a seat. True crime's a block, facts the artillery. Spinning those lies, yo, she checks that misery. Tabloid tales get smashed, no time to play. She's glass hard, break the false and save the day. True crime's a block, facts the artillery. Spinning those lies, yo, she checks that misery. Tabloid tales get smashed, no time.
Okay, here we go. Taterbug, Brody, the great Tony Natali, Rockstar 60, Roz 805. Hello, hello, hello. JMS, Dean Walker, Scorpio Moon Gal, Markar, Thok. Hello, everybody. Wanted to talk to you. Please hit the thumbs up on your way in, guys. Wanted to talk to you today about the last day of testimony. I thought we were going to get a rebuttal. Thought Dr. Welsher, is that right? Was going to come back with a rebuttal? No, he's not. Apparently, maybe Judge Cannoni said, look, you destroyed this witness and cross. It was a really good cross by Hank Brennan. Obviously, you know, this guy said all the great Free Karen Reid talking points. They're all rejoicing over there. We know what we saw here. We know what we saw here. So it started out, I'm just going to keep it real brief today because I just want to go over three real highlights of Dr. Andrew Rentschler. So he is a biomechanist from ARCCA. So I hope I don't have to go back, but ARCCA was hired by the feds. Really good issue in the cross came up by Hank was that the feds were feeding him. They had a sequestration order, meaning he shouldn't know any of the testimony by the other people. They should know that. These are professional witnesses. They give testimony in trials all the time. They're the hardest witnesses to break in cross. They have a million different games they play and tricks on the stand to avoid being brought down in a cross. But so ARCCA, these are the accident reconstructionists that were hired by the feds that were supposed to be so independent, right? They made a big deal out of that. Turns out they were retained and paid for by the Commonwealth. This guy, after he testified, had lunch with the defense team. All that's brought up. But when the feds were feeding Dr. Andrew Rentschler information about the other testimony going on in the trial, clearly the feds are so independent. They don't want one side to win. I mean, why else would you be feeding testimony to a witness. And he's like, it didn't help me at all. It didn't make any difference. Everybody else was sequestered, meaning they couldn't watch each other's testimony. That gets brought up. But before that, he talks about, he makes a big deal about the only way to do it is our way. The only way to do it, is our way. Let's look at that. And then he wishes his son a happy birthday on the stand. It was so gross. I've never seen this before in a murder trial. I'd just like to wish my son a happy birthday on the witness stand in a murder trial. Is this a murder trial or is this Casey Kasem's Top 40? Do anybody remember that? I know this is a really old reference, but people used to call up and be like, hey, Casey, I just want to wish my girlfriend, Gill, a happy birthday. It's a murder trial in front of the grieving family. I just want to say, hey, I want to give a shout out to Kai. Kai out there, happy birthday. It is wild, wild, wild. We thought this guy was at least I did. I thought he was the lesser of two evils. They are a double-headed monster, these ARCCA witnesses. And yeah, it does make a difference, free Karen readers. They're like, well, if you were testifying for the Commonwealth, you'd say they were great. First of all, I don't think I've talked up any of the witnesses that were paid for in this case. I have a bias, inherent bias to witnesses that are not paid and retained, that are come in like the Trooper Pauls, who come in because it's part of their job to testify. They're not paid to testify. I have an inherent bias. I believe their testimony more when you're not paid for it. So as you can see, you can go back to Welsher or any of the other witnesses that were paid for, retained and paid for by the Commonwealth in this case. I don't think I've talked them up. Of course, I found it, I thought it was, decent, but, they're not the heroes of the day the way these people are making out ARCCA. These people are paid and retained, but they also did a lot better on cross, I thought, than ARCCA. They also weren't talking on an encrypted app, lying on the stand, those things, like ARCCA did when they told the jury that they weren't paid first trial. She could have been acquitted in that trial. We could have done nothing about it on totally perjured testimony. Nothing you can do. All right. So here's how it starts. This is where he talks about the great science. Okay, check this out. This is Andrew. Oh, whoop. I'm on the wrong thing. Hold on. Let me share this tab instead. Here we go. I have a couple tabs open because I just want to show you. So here's where he talks about the great science, and it's only, right the way, that's his way is the only way to do it. Take a listen.
Let me demonstrate. So there are several peer-reviewed articles that I reference.
Is this slide number 2, by the way?
This is slide number 2.
Thank you.
This is injury reconstruction by mechanical analysis.
By the way, what he's done, the lion's share of his academic work, and I don't know, have any of you ever seen what is it called? The Grievance Project, where they got all these really ridiculous things they just made up into academic journals. So excuse me for not and I think they got a few peer-reviewed things like rape culture and dog parks. So excuse me for being a little skeptical about the whole academic world after that. So, I mean, most of his stuff has been about wheelchairs. He's like Mr. Wheelchair. That's not car crashes.
Analysis of accidental injury. And that sets forth the methodology that I just described. It's well written about, well reviewed in peer-reviewed articles. This is the method you need. If you're going to opine on biomechanics, this is the method you need to do, the steps you need to go through in order to provide an actual opinion.
And describe that method just a little bit further. Does that include testing?
That includes testing.
Does that include both lab testing and field testing if it's possible?
Absolutely. Yes.
Explain that.
In fact, let me explain. Let me get through here. I just had a couple examples here. This third slide, another reference about biomechanical analysis. Again, it's all throughout the literature, very well established how to do this. Now, it's all based on the scientific method, okay? And the scientific method, which it was really established back in the 1620s, but this tells you how to do a process.
This is like, I'm sorry, maybe I'm a little gun shy from COVID, but all this sciencey talk, right? It's science. You just got to trust it. We did science. But I'll tell you where there's a big problem in his science, all his science, okay? But this goes into his birthday wish too. So he does a little science, then he's going to break it down in a folksy way, in a way what he tells his sons.
Proper scientific analysis. So you have an observation, you observe something. So in this case, you might say, all right, there's superficial abrasions to Mr. Keefe's arm, and there's a shattered taillight. Are those two things related? Well, the first thing you do is you research the topic area. You look through the literature, you find or look for any examples of that happening. You see if there's any reports or peer-reviewed articles written about this very occurrence. Can you actually demonstrate that if your arm hit the taillight would shatter and cause those abrasions? If this occurs or is a common occurrence, it should be in the literature. You should be able to find information about it. Then you form a hypothesis. Either you say, I think this injury is related to hitting the taillight, or it's not. Whichever one you choose, that's where you then start to...
Guess which one they chose. Was it related to the taillight or not? Guess which one they chose. They don't know. And then he answered one question. I love this. He goes, I don't know who placed I don't know if it was the taillight pieces or the hat. I don't know who placed that there. I mean, it's like a full-out Karen Reader. I mean,
to go into your experimentation, you have to develop tests to get data to actually back up your hypotheses. So if I said, well, I think the injury is related to it, what would you do? You would go and you would test it. You would get an arm. In this case, we got a hybrid 3 dummy arm, and we got an exemplar vehicle, and we hit the vehicle with the arm. Or we hit the arm with...
Yeah, we just had our arm pinata. What? We just had our arm pinata. What? Hey, BTM, nice to see you. Happy birthday to you while testifying on a murder trial. What a clown show. Wait till you see this. Wait till you see this. It's coming right up. Just a couple more minutes.
We ran into it to determine what's going to happen when that occurs. Do we get the right circumstances, the right loading to actually occur in that case? So this, and then you go back and you analyze that. And if your results don't match up with your hypothesis, you have to reevaluate. You have to go back and see if we don't get that type of injury, if we don't get the kinematics or the force associated with what we see, you have to reevaluate if your hypothesis or what you think happened is actually true or not. So you have to continuously go through this process. And that's what experts do. That's how you perform an analysis. And that's what's important. You know, I have 3 kids. I have a 9-year-old who's actually...
So I'm going to ask you to wait for the next question.
Okay, sure.
Was there an
He was like practicing that in the mirror. He's like, I have 3 kids. I'm going to pick out my pink tie to be on TV because I got to look good to try to get this psychopathic murderer off. These dark personalities walk amongst us. What is wrong with them?
example that you could use of sort of a real world example that you might want to use to explain some or part of the scientific method.
So it's not like they rehearsed this at all. It's not rehearsed at all. You could almost see him like turn to Judge Cannoni and shout line. I mean, this was the most rehearsed thing. And he said also he had very little contact with the defense team in scripting this. This is so scripted. Look at this.
There is, yeah. And I would like to explain an example of what's important with that. So I was going to say, I have 3 kids, a 9-year-old who's actually turning 10 today. Happy birthday, Kai. And I have 2 older ones.
All right. We're gonna stop this. Another example.
Go ahead.
That's the one moment where I was like, Judge Cannoni. This is the people in New York say, we feel you. We feel you. Oh. We're gonna, all right, listen. No, we're gonna strike that. Strike Kai's birthday. Sorry, Kai, your birthday has been canceled. JMS, thank you for the super sticker. What a farce. Ridiculous. Have you ever seen anything like that in a murder trial? And he like whines. I just had to show you how he whines into it. He was like, he had one false start, and then Jackson sets him up again, and then he goes back into it. Oh my law. Okay. Let me see. I also wanted to show you. So now we get into his ham sandwich. And this I thought was very effective by Hank Brennan, where he asks him about, and this is really stunning, that the Fed investigation, it's amazing that they didn't find, say Chloe did it or something, but obviously they would have had to make up evidence for that. They would have to totally fabricate something. It's amazing that they didn't fabricate a narrative, because like I said, they were calling him during last trial and telling him what other witnesses were saying so he could prepare their testimony. And the reason we know that their testimony was influenced by other people's testimony is because his colleague, Dr. Wolf, was saying things like, well, the state's going to say this, so we've got to really, buckle down. They're going to say that if we didn't look at the car itself, that we have no business talking about it. If we didn't get our physical hands on Karen Reed's actually smashed to smithereens taillight, then we have no business talking about it. But here's what we're going to say. So they were scripting their testimony based on the Commonwealth's arguments. So here he says it made no difference that the feds were giving them information. Then why are you entertaining the call? Aren't you busy? Don't you have things to do? If it's making no difference to your testimony, why are you hanging on the line? Sorry, gotta go, not interested. Right? If it makes no difference whatsoever, why are you still chatting away? Why are you still taking these calls? For what reason? Of course it influenced your testimony. Take a listen. Then he talks about, hold on one second. Then he talks about getting a ham sandwich. So he went out to lunch and he sat in the corner like a dunce with a dunce hat on and didn't listen to anything that he listened, but he didn't say anything. He didn't participate in the conversation. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. And then he was totally independent. He retained totally independent. And I reminded me, and I said this afternoon, if you were in the chat, shout out to everyone who was watching this live with me today. And thank you very much to your latex spouse who came on with me and very generously offered to take over the feed when I was on Julie Grant. And Julie Grant, thank you very much. If anybody has the link to that, send it to me. I'm not exactly sure where to find it. I usually watch Court TV just on YouTube. I was on her show from the 10 to 11 hour this morning. So obviously, I was talking about Bill Cunningham, who used to take pictures. He would take street style pictures, like pictures of people on 57th Street, the real fashionable people walking around. And also, from poor people to rich people to whatever. And he'd make like a little thing in the New York Times about trends, his photographs, who's a photographer. And he would also do these society parties and all sorts of different parties all around New York. And he would never take so much as a glass of water at these parties because he said, I have to maintain my objectivity. So Bill Cunningham, R.I.P., if he were alive, he would say this: once you take a ham sandwich, once you hang out with these people, once you take a ride from them, it changes the relationship. You're no longer an outsider. But he's going to say because he ate his ham sandwich that it didn't affect him at all. He's not a hired gun for the defense, which essentially is what he is.
I didn't break any sequestration. They were the ones in contact with the court. So it was my assumption that whatever they were telling me was allowed by the court. They were the client. I didn't discuss anything with them. Prior?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't discuss the case with anyone. No, sir.
Well, you didn't discuss with anybody, you said?
I did not know.
Before you testified last year, you were receiving information from your employer about issues and testimony in the case.
The party that retained us told us things. I didn't break any sequestration. They were the ones in contact with the court. So it was my assumption that whatever they were telling me was allowed by the court. They were the client. I didn't discuss anything with them or tell them anything, but yes, they told us certain things.
Before you testified under oath last year, you were getting updates from your employer about details of this case, weren't you? Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah, I'm really sorry that Hank Brennan is walking around. I think he's very aware that the jury is fed up, may get bored. So he walked around, left the mic. It's really, from covering it live to now, I just don't have the time to just mess with just his audio. So forgive me. It's really low, very, very low audio.
Briefly.
So in New York federal courts, you can't walk away from the podium. You're not allowed. But here he's just walking around. So this was a lot of sidebars today. I was over it by the end of the day. It was very trying. But here he's going to go into his ham sandwich and his ride home. He must have asked for an Uber ride or said something. I thought I remember something in the voir dire about him taking an Uber to seem independent and not like his opinion was bought and paid for, which it was.
Before you testified last year, you were receiving information, not from the defense, from your employer, about other witnesses' testimony during the event, weren't you?
I don't know if they told us about witness testimony. They told us about certain evidence. I had no contact with the court, with the prosecution, with the defense. I had no idea what was going on. We were retained by a certain organization, and they contacted the court. They were in talks with the court about, I guess, what we could or couldn't do. Anything I got was from that organization.
I had no idea except for what the feds were telling me.
Voir dire 2, 118, line 15. Did you testify under oath that they did inform me, yes, about testimony and situations and events that came forth in the event that I was not aware of?
I don't know. They told us about evidence. I don't know if it was specific to who testified to what, but they told us certain things, certainly, yes.
What I just said to you, are those your words, sir?
I have no idea. I mean, if that's what's in the record, I assume it is.
Would you agree it certainly helped you prepare?
It helped me prepare.
Yes.
It didn't make a difference to my analysis or conclusions.
Made no difference at all?
It did not, no, sir.
If it's not helpful, then why are you talking to the feds? Why are they calling? Clearly, they think it's going to be helpful. Don't you hang up and say, I don't need this. I got it. My opinion is independent. You hang up. What are you doing hanging on the phone with them?
Do you agree it helps you understand what was going on during the trial?
I don't think it made a difference at all. No, it doesn't change the facts that I evaluated or the analysis I conducted or the conclusions I came to.
And so as you sit here today, you are denying that that information certainly helped you prepare.
How did it help me prepare? It didn't change the opinions I offered. It didn't change what was in my report or what I'm opining to or testifying to today. It hasn't changed anything I've ever testified to.
I'm going to ask you a very specific question. I want you to give me a very specific yes or no.
So just go ahead and ask the question.
Are you denying that receiving that information certainly helped you prepare?
Honestly, I can't remember. It didn't change my opinion. I don't see how it would help me prepare. I remember there was evidence about trace DNA found that we didn't know before. That didn't change my opinion then. It doesn't change my opinion now. It doesn't have anything to do with my opinion.
Details matter, right, sir?
Details can matter.
Details matter, so let's talk about details.
Sure.
You're denying that receiving that information certainly helped you prepare. You're denying.
I'm going to allow it.
Yeah, I don't think that it did. It's been a year, but certainly it didn't change any of my opinions or what I opined to. It didn't change anything with my testimony.
I'm going to ask you one more time. I'll ask you a different question. Receiving that information.
That's a really good question. HB, facts with Michelle, sorry. Why was Hank Brennan, founding on Dr. Welcher presentation not being sacked? I actually have that clip. I'm going to go to it next, and I'm going to talk about why I think it's the best, one of the best points in the entire cross, most important points. Should I spill it now or should I wait? I'm going to wait, but I'm going to wait. Hey, B. Tim. Thanks so much. Very generous of you. I think Hank didn't want the rebuttal witness because I think he didn't want to waste the jury's time with a rebuttal. I mean, it's a good sign for us that he thinks he doesn't need it, unless the judge threw it out and said, don't do it. I don't know. I also think he didn't want to allow the defense to have a chance to turn things around. I hope not. Good point. But they wouldn't have gotten a rebuttal. They would have just gotten a cross. But still, good point. I mean, Alan Jackson asked a question today. Like, you couldn't tell if anybody placed evidence there. I mean, it was so obvious what he was doing, getting the jury to just subliminally put it in the jury's minds that someone planted the taillight without having any evidence of it. Like, we wouldn't have any evidence because we wouldn't know. Someone planted evidence, even though we know it's impossible, because these car was already on the way to the Sally Port when the CERT team arrived, so there was no time to plant evidence. And as Hank Brennan pointed out in this cross, another great point of this cross was that Karen Reed, if she pulled out glass from his nose either that morning, that's before they had any time to frame Karen Reed. Pull out glass from either the glass or the taillight or plastic or glass or whatever it was when sharp. If that happened, then there was no time. There's no time period to plant any evidence in this case. I got a big email today from Free Karen Reader saying I'm so biased. I think they're so biased. Why aren't they looking at the actual evidence? Why are they going into things that aren't into
Your
evidence?
employer, are you denying?
She's like putting out things like, why didn't they luminol the area? They didn't need to luminol the area in the house. The blood was on the lawn. And you already criticized them saving the blood. I mean, that was...
It helped you understand what was going on during the trial.
I'm going to allow that.
I don't even think that it did. I don't understand that. I understood what was happening. I understood what the theory was. So saying that there's trace DNA doesn't change anything. It doesn't affect what my understanding of the trial was or what was happening or what allegedly occurred.
When you were traveling out to testify last year, you had phone conversations with the defense, didn't you?
I think I had like 2 phone conversations, 2 or 3.
So that sounds like a yes, you did.
Yeah, there was one right before my qualification, my blood deer, where I talked to Mr. Jackson, and that was it. Other than that, I think it was just planning and scheduling.
Mhm. Was there any discussion on how you could portray yourself as independent?
I don't believe there was.
You say you don't believe.
Yeah, there was no need to.
That's not the question.
If Karen Reed gets convicted of murder too, we have to have the biggest party. I don't know, do what. At this point, manslaughter would be, with all this, would still be a victory. You know, I really hope it's murder too, but any conviction beyond driving drunk, that's a serious serious conviction. She's never going to do the time that she really needs to do for this crime.
Details matter. Was there any attempt?
So the objection sustained. I'm going to strike that, folks. Okay. Questions, Mr. Brennan?
Was there any attempt in your conversations to portray yourself as independent? Or your arrangements were concerned in coming out here?
No, I don't think so, because there was no need to, because it was independent.
When you had conversations with the defense, did they offer to give you transportation assistance getting here?
They provided a ride to and from the airport, yes.
Did you tell the defense that you prefer to take an Uber so that it would appear independent to a jury?
No, because I didn't take an Uber. I took their ride. If I wanted to appear independent, then I would have taken an Uber.
Did you have a conversation about that you were thinking about taking an Uber?
It didn't even cross my mind, sir.
And then after you testified, did you stay independent?
What do you mean independent?
No, did you have any bias for it?
Any bias?
Bias, yes.
What do you mean? Did I have any bias?
Well, after you testified, where did you go?
Well, I was waiting for my ride, and to get back to the airport, they had to take other people. And so they were having a lunch afterwards, and they said, come have a sandwich, and then your ride will take you to the airport. So I went, and I had a ham sandwich.
You had a ham sandwich. Did you testify at some point that after you had something to eat, you just stood in the corner?
I did. I sat at a table 8 and then went over and literally stood in the corner waiting for my ride.
This is some nonsense. Some nonsense. Look at the face. That's all. Looks like a kid lying. Some nonsense. He stood in the corner. There are pictures of him walking with the defense team. He looks so at home and happy. Not at all the outsider he's portraying himself here.
When you sat at the table and eat, did you just eat your ham sandwich, or did more go on?
I ate. People were talking.
He sat in the corner with his dunce hat, and he ate his ham sandwich. He actually had a sign that said, "Do not talk to me." Ham sandwich being eaten. Independent witness eating ham sandwich. Do not disturb.
I really didn't talk much at all.
Did you listen?
Certainly, I'm sure I did, sir.
Did you laugh along?
I assume if something funny was said, I probably laughed.
Did you talk about your testimony?
At this point, I don't even remember.
Let me alert you to something. When you were there at the luncheon, did you see a camera crew
I believe I did, yes, sir.
filming and documenting, right?
There were a lot of cameras, yes.
You know that you might have been on some of that footage?
That's fine. I could care less.
Okay. So do you think maybe you were talking about the case and their answers and laughing it up a little bit?
I have no idea, possibly.
You were involved.
I wish they would just play the clip. Why couldn't they just play the clip? I'd love to see the actual version of this. Like, you're on, people are saying this is torture. All right. This is snapshots. We watched the whole day. Okay. And then finally, this is where I thought Hank Brennan really, so this is to answer your question. It's a really important thing that that Welsher, when he did his experiments, he wasn't saying what exactly happened. He's just showing a pattern, right? A pattern of what could have happened. He's not making a reenactment. And that's what they're trying to do here. Strangely, they made a reenactment that even with all the fiddling with the details and not knowing how, and they kept saying that no one knows how John O'Keefe was standing. You know who knows how John O'Keefe was standing? Karen Reed. When she backed her car into him, she knows. I wonder if she told them, don't do the experiment like this. She knows how she hit him, where he was. She has a crazy good memory, Karen Reed. Do not believe that she was so drunk that she does not remember. Alcohol does not seem to touch the sides with Karen Reed. So here's where Hank Brennan says, so when you move a bunch of variables, you can't, like they did, you're going to get outcomes that don't resemble what was the outcome with John O'Keefe's injuries, etc. They didn't put a glass in Randy's hand, meaning the rescue Randy doll. I don't know what to call it. When they ran it over, even though he did twist, and it looked like he would have twisted out of his shoe and been thrown onto the lawn with a force. I mean, and then they were saying the force was too low or wasn't at his midsection. I mean, it was a bunch of nonsense. You'll fall down with a bunch of force, all sorts of places.
If it doesn't represent the actual position, then apparently he has no idea how the arm was positioned or how it was impacted.
Let's get back to my question.
Yes.
Is there anything where Dr. Welcher has informed you or written that he is intending to represent the actual arm angle of John O'Keefe when he was hit by Alexis?
Again, I just described what he has in his actual report. So he didn't write specifically that that's what it's intended to do. It seems he's inferred that. And again, that's the only test that he's performed or referred to in this case.
You inferred that.
Inferred that that's how he believes that the arm was positioned.
I think we understand your perspective is that's the only test he performed. But what I really want to get at is your conclusion, your assumption that Dr. Welcher was suggesting that there was a specific arm angle that occurred in this case that he was identifying. You don't see that anywhere in his report.
Well, it would be pretty odd if the one test he ran didn't actually represent what he thought happened. I don't understand what the value of that would actually be.
Did Dr. Welcher ever represent that he was trying to describe the actual body position of John O'Keefe when he was hit?
Actually, he doesn't state that. He states very little in his report or in his PowerPoint. He demonstrates through the video of his arm like that and contacting it, and then he holds his arm up to a picture of Mr. O'Keefe's right arm to compare and apparently demonstrate that it's in the same area. But again, he doesn't actually state that opinion. He doesn't state any opinions that the contact actually occurred, except in one point, and has no evidence or foundation for that.
Would the answer to my question be no?
You would have to ask Dr. Welcher, I suppose, but if it's not, again, then I'm not sure what that test actually accomplished or represented.
You've made assumptions.
He's not sure. I think the jury got what it accomplished. It shows the area of injury, what an area of injury could be. That's all it was showing. The area of injury. That's it. You know, you need 32 contact points? Really? Have you ever fallen and scraped your knee? Do you know what weird? Has anybody fallen on the ground and known the chaos of those injuries? Ay, skis. All right, back to this. Where was I? I have so many things open here. Okay, here we go.
I've evaluated the evidence in the one test he ran. If that's incorrect, well, then I would have to correct my opinion and my assumption and say that not only is the test not actually show what occurred, but he hasn't performed anything to actually link the arm contact to the taillight cover. If it doesn't represent that, you're right, I'd change my opinion that there's no evidence, no analysis, no conclusion whatsoever.
I'm going to try to make my question a little clearer. Is there anything in the report where Dr. Welcher has stated that the arm angle in the demonstration was in any way attempt to replicate exactly how John O'Keefe's arm was when he was struck by Alexis?
I don't believe anything's written in the report with respect to that, no.
Is there?
Right. So they're basing this like on these calculations. We don't know. And Welcher testified, made great pains to say, look, we don't know the starting points. We can't do it an exact reenactment. I mean, certainly better than the arm pinata.
That states Dr. Welcher was stating or claiming that he knew the body position of John O'Keefe when he was struck.
I'm going to allow that.
So no, I guess there is no opinion or conclusion that he knows how Mr. O'Keefe was actually positioned at the time of this alleged incident. You're correct.
Do you know whether Dr. Welcher has been clear that he does not know? Let me say this a different way. You would agree, Dr. Welcher has never stated in his report that he can identify the speed at which Mr. O'Keefe was struck in a collision.
He does not state what he thinks the speed is. That's correct.
He never states how far, if at all, Mr. O'Keefe was thrown after being in a collision.
That's right. He does not.
When you don't know the speed, you don't know the body position, and you don't know the angle of the body at the time of collision, you cannot replicate a collision or crash that's done.
Well, you're right. You can't prove that that actually occurred.
There you go. I thought that was one of the more important parts of the cross-examination. See, they get their own witness to say, look, everything we did is not exact. And another great point of this examination is when he said, well, you didn't do these tests yourself. Dr. Wolf did them. And we know that Dr. Wolf had a little trouble with this certification because it was so easy that he failed it the first time. He had to take it again because he said, if you don't get everything exact on these tests with you can fail. So we're supposed to put our hands, this guy, yeah, if you don't get everything exact, you have problems duplicating these things scientifically. So there you go. There you go. That was the highlights of Welcher's testimony. I want to show you one other thing before I go. New York Post has an article on Karen Reed. Let me share it. Hold on one second. Karen Reed flashed sinister smirk as gory photos of her dead cop boyfriend were shown in court. So if you don't know the New York Post, this is our more conservative paper here in New York. Okay, so Karen Reed flashed sinister smirk as gory photos of her dead cop boyfriend were shown in court. She flashed a sinister smirk during her Massachusetts murder trial Tuesday. The same day, jurors were shown gruesome photos of her boyfriend's battered, lifeless body. Reed grimaced manically as graphic images of John O'Keefe's bruised and bloodied body were revealed to the jury as an expert witness testified that the blunt force trauma that killed the Boston cop wasn't consistent with being struck with the rear of the SUV. Elizabeth LaPosada, a forensic pathologist for Reed's defense, said O'Keefe's body bore no evidence of being hit by a car and challenged the medical examiner's ruling that hypothermia played a role in this 46-year-old's death. The body did not have any hypothermia, LaPosada testified, noting additional marks on his arm were likely caused by an animal bite or claw bites before his death. Daniel Wolf, an accident reconstructionist who previously this is annoying here, previously testified for the prosecution in the Reed's first trial, took the stand in her defense, arguing the broken glass from her car's taillight wasn't caused from hitting a person. And she displayed the Joker grin. Reed, 45, is accused of deliberately backing her Lexus SUV into O'Keefe's body before he died. Anyway, there's a little bit more on Karen Reed. So that's what our New York papers have to say about it. Tomorrow there is a jury charging conference at 10 o'clock. I will be there. I will see you all there. I'm going to just keep it brief for tonight. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for listening and watching with me. Please hit the thumbs up, share this episode, support the channel, and links are in the description of this episode. Venmo, great way to support the channel. Buy me a coffee. Patreon, all great ways. Links all in the description of this episode. I'll see you tomorrow at 10. Have a great night, everybody.
I hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident, but with lying lawyers I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment. I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system I clown. Save my skin. Making money, truth is my second victim. Carry, gin, like John, you were my mark. My innocence fraud campaign is my biggest hit. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system I clown.